Hey everyone, this is Max here with another video about Princess Connect. So the global server announced that the next gacha banner is going to be Kyouka, which is dropping on March 22nd. And in this video, I'm going to review Kyouka. So Kyouka is a backline single target magic DPS. And I'll start the video by summarizing whether I think you should roll for her. And the short answer is, if you are a medium spender or higher, meaning that if you're okay with, say, spending a couple $100s on the game each month, Kyouka is a very good character to have and is worthwhile to spend gems for. However, if you are F2P or a monthly card player, I suggest skipping Kyouka and saving your gems for Ilya, which is coming out not long after. Okay? So with that out of the way, I'll talk about Kyouka in a bit more detail. So like I said at the start, Kyouka is a single target magic DPS. She's also the first good single target magic DPS that's available in this game. And over the course of this video, I'll try to explain what makes her good. So starting with her skills. Kyouka's Union Burst is a single target attack that deals very large magic damage to the enemy that's closest to her. And this Union Burst right away kind of sets her apart from the other magic casters that are currently available, because none of them have a single target UB. Hatsune, Ana, Kaoru, and Misaki all have AoE UBs, while Akari's UB is a support buff. So this makes Kyouka much more suitable for clan battle, which are generally single target fights, and also for killing tanks in PvP. Now going on to her skills. Her skill 1 is an Ice Lance that deals large single target magic damage to the enemy. It has the same attack and skill level modifiers as Kaoru's Lightning Ball or Hatsune's Psychic Blast, both of which are their respective hardest hitting skills. But what sets Kyouka apart is really her self buff and her skill rotation, which I'll talk about next. So her skill 2 is a large self magic attack buff. And when I say large, I mean this buff really is pretty significant. At level 87, which is going to be the level cap for global when Kyouka releases, her skill 2 buff should come out to around 2500 magic attack. For reference, Kyouka's base magic attack at 5 stars, level 87 and rank 8-5 comes around to I think 4100. Adding her EX skill, it's about 5600. So this one buff which she uses in battle increases her magic attack by almost 50%. And she's also the first and only magic DPS so far to have a self-attack buff. Kyouka's skill rotation is going to be something I depict in this graph here, you can see. I won't read it out, but she'll start with her skill 2, which is the self buff, followed by the Ice Lance. And then she'll enter a rotation. It's fairly long, but basically you can see that she'll always use her self buff immediately followed by the Ice Lance, and there's some normal attacks interspersed between. And for every 10 actions, she'll use the self buff and Ice Lance combo 3 times, making her single target DPS far exceed that of any other magic DPS currently available in game. Now the other thing that makes Kyouka unique is her positioning. She is the furthest back character released in the game up until this point. She has an attack range of 810. This means that if you put Kyouka on your team, no matter who else is on the team, Kyouka will be in the 5th position. And this will continue to be true until the release of Halloween Misaki, who stands even more to the back of Kyouka. And I talk about I talk about her positioning here as something that makes her special because it has some important implications for PvP. So I'll talk about PvP first. Kyouka is really good in PvP for the first month. Around this time, the hardest thing in Arena generally comes down to dealing with a high star pudding. that is protected by a Tamaki. And Kyouka's specialty in PvP is busting through physical tanks like Pudding, or to a lesser extent, Nozomi. Kyouka is especially good when you pair her with Akari, because Akari's first action is a magic defense debuff on the frontmost enemy tank, while Kyouka's first action is a self-magic attack buff. Then their next actions are both of their hardest hitting single target skills directed at the frontmost tank. So even a 5-star Pudding will melt to this combination. Also, thanks to Kyouka's excellent positioning, she is very safe from AoE characters like Rino and Rino. In fact, even if you run Kyouka into a Rino team that's using Rima as a tank, which reduces the range between your characters and Rino, Rino's AoE still will not reach Kyouka, and of course Rino will not be able to reach Kyouka either. And also because of her positioning, the other aspect to note that generally is Kyouka will not be affected by Kuka's taunt. So sometimes you'll run into arena defense compositions consisting of a Pudding and a Kyouka. And because Pudding and Kyouka, they kind of stand really close together, a lot of times your magic attack characters will be within range of both Pudding and Kyouka. And then Kuka's taunt is active pretty much almost all of the time, so those magic characters' attacks will be hitting Kyouka instead of Pudding. Kyouka doesn't suffer from that problem because she's so far back that generally she'll be able to reach only Pudding but not Kyouka, thereby essentially ignoring Kuka's taunt and killing Pudding quickly. That said, Kyouka's PvP dominance doesn't really last that long because Ilya is released about a month later, and Kyouka just can't really compare with Ilya when it comes to the speed at which you can tear through tanks, especially because Ilya does AoE damage, so she can kill multiple tanks at a time. Kyouka kind of has to do it one by one. After Ilya's release, Kyouka's role in PvP becomes more relegated to Princess Arena, for when you need to kill Pudding on a defense team, but Ilya is required against another defense team. Also, I should note that sometimes Kyouka is paired with Ilya as bait for Tamaki's dagger, which can threaten Ilya if she's the only magic DPS on the team. That said, I should say it's not really necessary or that important of a combination because oftentimes you can just use Maho or Shizuru, who will heal Ilya back up immediately after Tamaki throws her dagger. So I've talked about Kyouka's PvP performance, and now I'll talk about CB. In contrast to her PvP career, which is strong but short-lived, Kyouka's CB career is very long-lasting. This doesn't mean that she'll be used for CB at first, and that's because there's still no good magic defense debuffers yet. But all of that will change with the release of Summer Karu, which made magic teams viable for CB. And once Summer Karu is released, Kyouka, thanks to her excellent skill rotation and single target focused skills, will remain a core member of CB magic teams for almost 2 years. An extremely long period of time in Princess Connect. Early on, the most common magic team will be Ilya, Akari, Misato, Summer Karu, and Kyouka. As you get to higher boss tiers, and also later on as more characters get released, this lineup will change. You'll switch out characters like Akari and even Ilya. But Kyouka and Summer Karu will remain the two staples of every magic team throughout these changes. Now, although Kyouka is a vital character for CB, the reason I don't suggest people polling for Kyouka is because, first of all, she's a permanent character and she becomes farmable starting on map 16. And second, you will generally only use one magic team per day for CB. So what this means is that as long as you have either Ilya or Kyouka, you can always borrow the other one to make a magic team for CB. And if you had to choose between owning one character between Kyouka and Ilya, I much recommend Ilya over Kyouka. So that's all for this video. I'll see you next time.